Ladies and gentlemen, it is finally time for the elimination phase of Capcom Cup 11 groups. Here on day 3, we will go from 48 players only down to the final top 16. 2 out of each group, 1 in winners and 1 in losers. And I promise you, there will be upsets that you did not call up ahead. Now, let me add a disclaimer here. I've been trying and failing to make this video for the past 5 hours. I tried to make this video in DaVinci Resolve, and that was a mistake because I don't know the program that well. I was trying to save on rendering times, and that was a disaster. And now I'm running out of time to get a video recap out before the top 16 actually begins, which will start in a few hours in Japan morning time. And I'm running on very little sleep. So to be honest, I'm going to be rushing this video. I'm going to be giving you a brief recap of each group at a high level and maybe hopefully get some visuals there to accompany it. But it's just going to be me kind of rambling of my impression of each event that happened today. I really apologize. I wasn't able to keep up with the cadence. Work got busy. I'm so sorry. Thank you for bearing with me. Hopefully you still enjoy. Now, on to the first group of the day. We had Group G, and the main thing going into this group was how Xiao Hai was 3-0, looking really dominant, playing his Mai and his M. Bison, and eventually he does add some other characters to the roster. But also Juicy Joe, 3-1 to the day, only losing a set to Xiao Hai going into it. So those were the two favorites to make it out. Nephew, he starts off with a win over Xiao Hai, giving Xiao Hai his first loss of the day. And Xiao Hai won Akuma in this set, which was kind of surprising, and Nephew ends up taking it 2-1. So he has a shot of staying alive in the group. Kills You, on the other hand, he was 0-3 when this day started, so he plays his Kami against Kaba's Guile, and Kaba wasn't having the best Capcom Cup group either, but Kills You ends up taking that set. Suddenly, when it's the final day, when the pressure's off and there's no chance he can make it out, he starts getting some wins. Juicy Joe then goes up against Liquid Nephew, and Nephew, if he wins this set 2-0 against Juicy Joe, he's actually able to stay alive and potentially make it out of groups. He has to tie Juicy Joe's game record and beat him head-to-head to move on, and also have NuckleDu lose his next set. But Juicy Joe ends up taking this 2-1. Really solid JP gameplay, all but assuring that he's going to make it out of the group, at least in loser side, depending on some upcoming results. Kaba and NuckleDu finally throw down the battle for the best Guile. Ever since Kaba beat NuckleDu at Cream City Convergence earlier in the season, he popped off saying, "I'm the best Guile," and NuckleDu proposed the salty $10,000 money match in response to that. Well, they finally played here at Capcom Cup in the same group on the final day, and it's Guile with Kaba and NuckleDu with Kami. And Kaba ends up actually taking that set over NuckleDu 2-1. He has the "I'm the number one" pop up at the end there, walking around putting his finger to the sky. He had some dastardly devilish techniques along the way as well. Really close set, so I highly recommend checking that one out. And then finally comes down to Kill You versus Xiao Hai. And Xiao Hai, he's fighting to keep his winner's side qualification spot alive, but for some reason Kills You on the finals day decides to turn it up. He ends up taking this set 2-0 in the Kami mirror match over Xiao Hai, which in turn does nothing for Kills You besides maybe help his pride a little bit. But what that does to Xiao Hai is ensure that he has a 3-2 record, and Juicy Joe is the one who gets out of Group G, which I think was the most stacked group in winners side. So really surprising result there for those who weren't in the know. I mean, I really thought Juicy Joe was going to be a monkey wrench in this bracket for sure, but did I predict him to come out winner's side? No, can't say that I did, but big place to Juicy Joe. He gets out in winners, and Xiao Hai takes the loser's spot instead. On to Group H, though, the group with Angry Bird, Juninho Ross, Lex, Sol, Shuto, and Kusanagi. So going into this one, obviously the two favorites were Shuto and Angry Bird to make it out, but Sol kind of put a big monkey wrench into that by beating Shuto and giving him his first loss and messing up the predicted outcome after Shuto had already beaten Angry Bird and Kusanagi, the two favorites, so to challenge him for that winner's side qualification. But here Sol actually starts the first match of the day, beating Kusanagi 2-0. Kusanagi is just not having a good Capcom Cup. After that, Angry Bird it also takes out Juninho Ross. Juninho Ross at this point was 3-0 going into today as well. That was the other big story, but he had to play Angry Bird and Shuto, the two hardest opponents in the group. Unfortunately, he drops that set to Angry Bird, and Angry Bird proceeds to enhance his record to 3-1 at that point. Lex also takes a set 2-1 over Kusanagi, and Kusanagi goes 0-5 in Capcom Cup. He won UFA in France with Ryu, Open Premier. It ends up going 0-5 in Capcom Cup. He just really wasn't feeling it this Capcom Cup, unfortunately. Not the most indicative performance of his level. I know he has more in him, but Lex takes that set. Also, just fighting for pride, there was pretty much no chance of Lex making it out either. After that, Shuto takes the set 2-0 over Juninho Ross. And unfortunately, even though Juninho going into the day was actually the leader, he was undefeated, the only undefeated player going into this day. He ends up dropping both those sets to the two main opponents he was worried about. And then Angry Bird also beat Soul 2-0, who was fighting there, Angry Bird, for his winner's side qualification. And thus, Angry Bird, with a 4-1 record, secures his winner's side qualification over Shuto because they both are 4-1. But Angry Bird has the +7 game differential with Shuto with a +4 game differential, which goes to show that the games that you win in the set matter. Winning 2-0 is much more valuable in the Capcom Cup group format than winning 2-1. Shuto, even though he beat Angry Bird's only loss in groups was to Shuto, and they have the same game record, is actually going to make it out in losers instead. So how you do against the rest of the group also really matters. After Group H, we go ahead and switch on over to Group A. And here was a really questionable group because, of course, we have Takamura in there. We have Itabashi Zangief, Hot Dog, Salvatore Phenom, and Punk Dagai, the EVO champion. And going into today, it was a big question of who's going to make it out because everybody had taken a loss up until this point. Takamura was in the lead, but when you look at Punk, he already had a 2-2 record, a loss on the board losing to Salvatore. So it was really questionable what was going to happen in this group. And with the first match, Hot Dog 29, who started really poorly in the groups, ends up taking a set win 2-1 over Punk's Cammy. Punk woke up with DP when he had the bomb planted and lost about 90% health to lose that game, which put him in a 2-2 position, really dangerous to proceed with the Capcom Cup. Takamura ends up taking out Salvatore 2-0, and then Phenom and the Cammy Mirror beats Punk 2-0. So Punk lost the Cammy Mirror to Salvatore and Phenom as well to end his Capcom Cup run with a 2-3 record. Punk effectively out of groups at that point. Itabashi Zangief takes out Salvatore 2-1, and then Takamura beats Hot Dog 29 2-0, and Takamura 4-1 in this group, and Phenom making it out with a 3-2 record. So Takamura winners, Phenom losers. Punk out of there, not moving on. Wow. I don't know if you call that an upset. To me, Takamura is just like amazing in Capcom Cup always, so you really can't call it an upset in my opinion. He did this very similar thing to Idom back in Capcom Cup 2022 when Idom was winning every tournament. He actually beat Idom in groups and got out in winners and put Idom in losers. This time Punk doesn't even move on, so big place of those two players. Now on to Group B. In my opinion, Group B was the most wide open group up till this point. Everybody had a loss, and it was kind of a wild card group to begin with. We had Salty Kid, CNE, Grand Todekai, NL, Noah the Prodigy, and JB in this group. And Noah the Prodigy starts the day off big with a win over NL, which really set the tone for this group because those were two of the favorites with a tied record at that point, I believe, to make it out in the group. So big win over NL, and this is not the first time Noah has beaten NL. He also beat NL in some Esports World Cup qualifiers, I believe CEO, if I remember correctly, earlier in the season. So repeating that win. Grand Todekai takes a 2-1 set win over C Anik. Noah the Prodigy then beats Salty Kid 2-0, and that all but guarantees Noah getting out in winners with a 4-1 record at that point, which is really huge. JB goes on to beat Grand Todekai, and at this point, his fate is in C Anik's hand because both JB and NL would potentially end with a 3-2 record. He needed C Anik to beat NL to make it out because the game differential is going to be too much in NL's favor. But C Anik unfortunately loses 2-0 to NL. NL then has a 3-2 record with a +4 game differential to get out in loser side over everybody else. JB and Grand Todekai tied with 3-2 with a +1 game differential. And Noah the Prodigy makes it out in winners. And of course, he had something to say on the interview. Let's go ahead and roll the clip, I hope.
Man, talk me through your feelings right now.
Good, I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm ready to cook up, I'm ready to kill everyone. I'm ready, I'm good, let's get it.
For the fans here, everyone watching on, you know, people supporting you back home, do you have any words to share?
Shout out the hood, shout out Slack, Quincy, Gifted, Tony, Reggie, my dad, my mom. Hey, Twitter, what happened to all that talk y'all were talking? What happened? Y'all quiet now. Let's get it. Noah the Prodigy, what happened to all that talk y'all were talking? Let's get it. Twitch, what happened? Y'all did all that talking on Twitter. What happened?
No.
Y'all post my Street Fighter League record now. Post my Street Fighter League record now. Post my Street Fighter League record now.
All right. Hopefully we were able to actually roll that interview clip. Next up is Group C, and this was the group that had the most upsets already leading up to this. We have JBM, Dual Kevin, Zengi Pilato, Halibal, Kakeru, and Tokido in this group. And obviously Kakeru and Tokido were the favorites to make it out. But after day 2, we saw that Zengi Pilato had already taken a set win over Tokido, and JBM took a set win over Tokido as well. 2 big upsets to have Tokido go into this day with a 1-2 record. So he had to do big things today, did Tokido, to survive. And his first match was Kakeru, who was undefeated this entire time. Tokido goes up against Kakeru and ends up taking the set 2-1, a required win to stay alive in this set. Next up, Zengi Pilato and JBM, both of them fighting to potentially make it out in the group. Zengi Pilato takes it 2-1 over Jabi. Then Tokido goes up against Halibal. He has to win this game 2-0 to survive in Capcom Cup at minimum. Otherwise, there's a real big chance he's not going to make it out because of the fact that Zengi Pilato is tied in record and has the head-to-head win versus Tokido. He needs to have a solid game differential over Zengi Pilato to make it out. Tokido beats Halibal's Ken in the mirror. Halibal goes Guile and nearly gets a game on Tokido. He has to clutch up, make a comeback, take out Halibal from a huge deficit, and then close out the set to take it 2-0. Zengi Pilato after that beats Dual Kevin 2-0, which means Zengi Pilato is 3-2 with a +0 game differential, and Tokido is 3-2 with a +1 game differential. If Halibal had gotten that one game with Guile, even though if Tokido won the set 2-1, he would have been +0 game differential, tied with Zengi Pilato, and then Zengi Pilato would have the head-to-head tiebreaker win, meaning Zengi Pilato would have made it out of Capcom Cup, and Tokido would have drowned in groups. So that one game difference could have changed Capcom Cup history. Instead, Tokido secures his win out in losers because Kakeru goes on to fight JBM. JBM had a chance to make history if he had won the set 2-0. He also would have made it out of groups. There are so many potential outcomes here where JBM, Zengi Pilato, or Tokido all could have made it out, but instead, Kakeru wins the game 2-0. JBM needed a 2-0 win over Kakeru instead, which with that record, Kakeru secures his winner's side qualification, and Tokido sneaks in by the skin of his teeth into loser's side. We also had JBM, he put his head in his hands after Kakeru tried to combo into level 3. It didn't even combo, actually. The level 3 dropped, but JBM was too distraught to pay attention and look up and actually get the back throw punish and kill him. So Kakeru gets lucky there. So it's never over till it's over, unfortunately. But for JBM, his Capcom Cup run is now officially over. After that, we go on to Group D, where Blaz has been the talk of the town, completely undefeated up until this point, 3-0. But the rest of the group is pretty dead even. Everybody has losses, and it's going to come down to some game differentials to decide who makes it out. VXBOW starts off with a 2-0 win over Emperor to keep his streak alive, or his Capcom Cup qualification potential alive. Blaz then beats Bravery 2-0 to go up 4-0. Remember, Blaz is 15 years old, Chilean prodigy, with a 4-0 record in his group in Capcom Cup. After that, Broski beats Emperor 2-0, and this is huge because the moment Broski beat Emperor 2-0, he guaranteed his qualification out in losers, because no matter what, even if VXBOW won his final set 2-0, they would be at best tied in game differential and game record with a 3-2 game record, but Broski won the head-to-head against VXBOW, meaning in the final tiebreaker, Broski would come out on top. Blaz takes a victory lap over IDOM with a 2-0 victory to be completely undefeated in his group, 5-0 with a +7 game differential to absolutely dominate this group and make it out in winner's side. And then VXBOW in the final match in the Sumo Arena in Japan goes E-Honda against Bravery Cammy. And it's not a troll pick. This is not just because both VXBOW and Bravery were mathematically guaranteed eliminated from Capcom Cup. This was his legit tournament pick. Apparently, the Chinese community informed me that he trains E-Honda specifically for certain matchups, including Cammy. And his Honda was super strong, ended it on a super solid 2-0 victory in the Sumo Arena, and the Japanese audience there really enjoyed that. But with that said, at the end of the day, Blaz gets out in winners, and Broski, content creator and Aki specialist extraordinaire, gets out on the losers side of Group D. Moving on to Group E, this group was highly contentious as well to see who would make it out on the loser side. because Fuudo was dominating the winner's side. The rest of the players, Diver, Mr. Crimson, Chris CCH, Limestone, and MenaRD were battling it out to figure out what was going to go down. MenaRD already had a surprise loss to Limestone in the previous day, which really made his qualification in jeopardy. And then he goes up against Fuudo for the first game, and Fuudo cooks MenaRD. I don't think I've ever seen MenaRD lose that quick before. I think it was 4 rounds straight with his ed against both MenaRD's Blanca and M. Bison. But yeah, it was kind of free. Limestone then takes a set 2-0 over Diver. MenaRD then beats Mr. Crimson 2-0. There was a chance that Mr. Crimson could potentially win over MenaRD if he won that set, but it wasn't in the cards for him. MenaRD beats Mr. Crimson there. Chris CCH then beats Limestone, and Fuudo beats Diver 2-0. But once MenaRD beat Mr. Crimson, this group is pretty much set in stone. MenaRD out in losers, and Fuudo 5-0 plus 9 game record, losing only 1 game in the whole group stage, moves on in winners and is looking in prime form to try to take Capcom Cup entirely. Next up, final group of the day, Group F, the group of death. Big Bird, Lashar, Cien, Oil King, Uriel Valorio, and Jack in this group. And first off, we had Lashar versus Cien, and this is the battle to determine essentially who's most likely going to get out in winners, because both of these players had a really strong record. Lashar had his first loss of the group stage to Jack, but was still the favorite to potentially make it out in winners, and Cien was actually undefeated up until this moment. Lashar ends up beating Cien 2-0 to make his record 3-1 for the group. Oil King then takes a set 2-0 over Uriel Valorio, and Uriel is pretty much in an unwinnable position here, 0-4 in the group at this point. Oil King fighting to stay alive potentially. Lashar then takes a big set 2-0 over Big Bird, and Big Bird then his Capcom Cup qualification is pretty much over at that point. I mean, there's not really many scenarios where he can make it out. He ends with a 3-2 record with only 1 match for the day there. He definitely needed a game win or a set win there to ensure his qualification. Jack beats Uriel Valorio to bring his record to 2-3, and then Cien beats Oil King 2-0 to make his set record 4-1. But with that said, Lashar is 4-1 with a +6 game differential, and Cien is 4-1 with a +5 game differential. So if Cien had gotten a single game on Lashar and maybe won another game 2-0, he would have been out in winners. It came down to the game differential. Lashar clutched up and won against Cien 2-0 and beat Big Bird 2-0, which really is what ensured that he would make it out in winners. If he didn't win those sets 2-0, he actually would have gotten out in losers instead. So Lashar really came clutch in the end. Jack put things into chaos by beating Lashar early on, and he clutched up and takes the winner spot with Cien moving on in losers. And with that said, we have now our final top 16 bracket. So for top 16, we have Takamura going up against Noah the Prodigy, Kakeru versus Blaz, Fuudo versus Lashar, Juicy Joe versus Angry Bird on the winner's side, and then the loser side, Phenom versus NL, Tokido versus Broski, MenaRD versus Cien, and Xiao Hai versus Shuto. And I think this is a super sick top 16. I'm really looking forward to it. Noah the Prodigy is the final remaining player from America in this top 16, which is always amazing to see. It seems like when the lights are the brightest, he always shows up, like Esports World Cup. He's going up against Takamura, another really interesting and unique player, and I think just the rest of the bracket is loaded with killers, loaded with amazing matches. So the top 16 action is going to start very soon. Please enjoy it. Once again, I apologize for this hastily put together recap. It's the best I can do considering the lack of sleep, lack of time, busy schedule, and lack of technical ability. Thank you so much for watching and supporting. I'll see you guys in the final Capcom Cup recap. Peace.